Hello students, Manimugdha Medhi here. Um, I'm an assistant professor in social work program, humanities and social sciences, Assam Downtown University. Well, today's lecture is on urbanization in India, and we will discuss various concepts of cities and metropolises, and a brief history. Okay, and let's see. We have already studied about urban communities and urbanization in the world. And let's see what the contents here we have today. So uh, the introduction part. Well, urbanization basically in India, began to accelerate after the country's adoption of mixed economy. Okay, before it was more of a public sector economy, then it became a mixed sector economy where private enterprises rose, and it gave rise to private sectors. So urbanization is taking place at a very fast rate in India, as you know. And population residing in urban areas in India, according to 1901 census, was around 11.4%, just mere 11.4%, and only in major cities like Bombay, Calcutta, Delhi, were the major cities that time. This count increased to 28.53% according to 2001 census, and crossing 30% as per 2011 census, and stood at 31.16% in 2017, and right now the numbers have increased to 34% according to the World Bank. So according to a survey by UN State of World Population in 2007, by 2030 41%, approximately 41% of country's population is expected to reside in urban areas. So India basically, along with China, Indonesia, Nigeria, and USA, will lead the world's urban population surge by 2050. So as you all know, Mumbai has a very large-scale rural-urban migration, and it is still there. And in 2018, it accommodates around 22.1 million people, and is one of the largest metropolis by population in India, followed closely by Delhi with 20 million inhabitants. Well, the first Mumbai has 32.1 million people, as I have wrongly written there. So 32.1 million, please correct it, and followed by Delhi with 28 million. Witnessing the fastest rate of urbanization in the world as per 2011 census, Delhi's population rose from 4.1%, Mumbai's by 3.1%, and Kolkata's by 2% as per 2011 census compared to 2001 census. So India, basically from very ancient times, had lots of cities. As you have heard, a lot of cities during the pre-ancient era, that is, the Harappa culture, the Mohenjo-daro culture, right? And basically the Indus Valley civilization. Around 5 to 6 cities were there in the Indus Valley civilization. Then it came the ancient age where the Mauryan Empire was there with the capital at Pataliputra. Okay, and the major cities came into existence then. So we'll look into it. Look at, as you can see, the historical towns and cities in India. So in pre-ancient era, there was Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, Kalibangan, Rupar, Lothal. So these were all Indus Valley civilization cities. Okay, and which is currently, in parts of Pakistan and parts of Gujarat, Rajasthan, etc. So in the ancient era, we see the cities like Patliputra, Indraprastha, and Nalanda. Okay, Indraprastha was a very old city. Actually, if you believe the Mahabharata, you have already heard the word Indraprastha, right? Which is basically Khandaprastha till the Pandavas have made it Indraprastha, right? So it was there since pre-ancient, more pre-ancient era, right? After that, we can see the medieval era, that is the Vijayanagara Empire, the capital at Hampi. Then we saw Mysore, Calicut, Golconda, Delhi, Agra, Lucknow, and Hyderabad, which became major cities. So basically, Vijayanagara, Hampi were the cities of Mysore, was also the cities of Vijayanagara Empire. Then Calicut was in Calicut is the modern day Kozhikode, that is in Kerala. Then we can see Golconda, Bijapur, then Delhi and Agra during the Mughal times, and Lucknow and Hyderabad. Okay, so those were the medieval cities. In modern era, that is during the British period, we saw the emergence of port cities like Calcutta, Bombay, Madras, Surat. Okay, so these were the port cities which came into existence and became more developed. And after independence, we saw other than those cities of modern era, that is Calcutta, Calcutta became Kolkata, Bombay became Mumbai, Madras became Chennai, and we have and there are more cities like Bangalore, Chandigarh, and Bhopal, which grew into modern day cities. So since ancient times, we have seen cities. So basically, what are the characteristics of a city? Cities are urban areas with a population more than 1 lakh, which we have already studied. It has a large size and high density of population. It is heterogeneous in nature, that is very much diverse. It is anonymous. Mostly the crowd is anonymous. No one knows each other. No one even knows their neighbors. Then there are formality of relations, more formal relations than personal relations. Then yes, social distance, which is more frequent now during the coronavirus pandemic, and yes, social distance is still played a major role in a city. Then we can see a large scale of division of labor and specialization, large scale of social mobility, right? From basically upward mobility from from lower caste to upper castes. Then then we have lower caste to upper caste through Sanskritization or through Westernization. Okay, then more of individual we can see. We are more interested about our personal interests and not a collective goal, right? Then we can see most nuclear families, lack of there is no unity in community feeling, lack of we feeling, right? So lack of unity in family as well, and we see a very high incidence of crime, and there are a lot of peculiarities of marital life, right? There are so many complex issues in marital life that we can see in a city, which is not actually seen in rural areas. As we have already discussed, the divorce, right, which is rarely seen in villages actually. Then we have a dynamic life, very much changing life, right? It can change today or it can change tomorrow. Then we mostly have an artificial life, yes, which we can say as a digital life nowadays. Then there's a lot of materialism and secularism. So in village areas or in rural areas, we see more of a religious crowd, right? But in a city, we see more of a secular crowd. So example, I've just given the Northeast cities. There are so many cities in India. Guwahati, Dibrugarh, Shillong are some of the big cities in Northeast India. So a metropolis, what is a metropolis? So metropolis are cities, okay? Basically metropolis are cities, but with a population of more than 1 million, okay? That is more than 10 lakhs, right? 1 lakh for cities, minimum 1 lakh for cities, 10 lakhs for metropolis. So as many, cities other than the population count, most of the other things are same. Okay, large size of high density of population, heterogeneity, anonymity, formality of relations, social distance, large scale of very large scale, much larger scale of division of labor and specialization. Okay, large scale of social mobility, individuation, the nuclear family, lack of community feeling, lack of unity in family. Okay, much higher incidence of crime here, as we can see, more complexities in marital life, right? And very dynamic life, very artificial, very materialistic, and very much secular, right? So these are some of the characteristics which definitely matches with the city, but with a larger population count. So New Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Chennai, Calcutta are some of the most known metropolis of our country. Next, we see the characteristic of a town, which is basically a city with a very less population, right? Here the population count is more than 5,000, just more than 5,000, and it's smaller in size, medium density of population, and it can be both homogeneous and heterogeneous. Some towns are some towns are mostly homogeneous, where a similar kind of crowd lives in, but some towns can also be heterogeneous. Then there is more formality of relations, more personal relations are there. Then there is segmentation of personality, divided personality we can see. Then relatively small scale division of labor, we can see a very less specializations we can see, and small scale social mobility. I won't say there's no social mobility at all, but there is small scale, very small scale social mobility is there. Then we can see the characteristic of both nuclear and joint family here in towns, and a little community feeling is also there. Okay, and there are unity in family, and yes, incidents of crime where it doesn't have, it has everywhere, right? So a bit lesser still because of the population count, definitely. And then social disorganization, dynamic life, artificial life, and materialism. So artificial life has crept on to towns as well. Some of the towns include Gwalpara, Nalbari, and Naga. Okay, these are still towns, but I would say they are still growing into cities as more and more population are migrating to urban areas. Then there is a place called suburb. Okay, so suburb is basically a community surrounding a city. As cities grew more crowded and often more impoverished and costly, more and more people began to migrate back. Okay, but instead of returning to rural small towns, like they have resided in before moving to city, these people needed close access to the cities for their jobs so that they can do up and down. As the suburbs became more crowded and lost their charm, those who could afford it turned to exurbs or suburbs. Okay, communities that exist outside the ring of suburbs are typically populated by even wealthier families who want more space and have resources to lengthen their commute. So suburbs and exurbs are related, but exurbs has more of a lavish community or a wealthier community. Okay, suburbs are basically are places where uh, they are just outside the ring of the metropolis or a big city. So examples like Adabari, as we know now, Satgaon and Adgaon near Guwahati city, they are known as suburbs or good suburbs. Okay, um, even Satgaon has recently come as exurbs also because lots of wealthier families stay there. So now there's another concept called satellite cities or satellite towns. Okay, so satellite towns and cities are basically smaller municipalities that are adjacent to a major city, which is the core of a metropolitan area. So they differ, from suburbs, subdivisions, and especially bedroom communities, in that they have municipal governments distinct from that of core metropolis and employ bases sufficient to support their residential population. So basically, the satellite towns are also similar, a bit more bigger than the suburbs, right? They will have all the characteristics of a city or a town, but they they will not be suburbs, and they are not just residential areas. So we can see commercial areas as well. So conceptually, satellite cities could be self-sufficient communities outside their larger metropolitan areas. However, functioning as part of Metropolis, a satellite city experiences cross-commuting, that is, residents commuting out of and employees commuting into the city. Okay, so a very common example, that is Kengeri satellite town just outside Bangalore city. When you come from Mysore, you will find a city, a town like Kengeri. Okay, and since in from in Guwahati, you can see the town of Jorabad. Okay, so which is just in the border of Meghalaya and Assam, right? And it's basically an entrance to Guwahati, which nowadays is also known as a satellite town. Okay, so satellite cities are basically small or medium-sized cities near a large metropolis, and predate the metropolis urban expansion, and partially independent from the metropolis economically and socially. So this partially independent is a very major word. Please note it down that satellite, the suburbs are basically dependent on the metropolis, okay, economically and socially, but satellite towns can be independent, okay, at least partially. They are also physically separated from metropolis by a rural territory or by a major geographic barrier, such as large river or urbanized area, like so. And they have their own suburbs. Satellite towns have their own suburbs. Okay, They have traditional downtowns surrounded by traditional inner city neighborhoods. Okay, may or may not be counted as part of larger metropolis. And satellite cities differ from suburbs in that they have distinct employment bases, commuter shades, and cultural offerings from central metropolis, as well as an independent municipal government. So these are some of the points which you can differ from a suburb. So satellite towns, satellite cities are not merely bedroom communities. We can say bedroom communities as exurbs or suburbs. So basically, we have come to the end now. That rapid rise in urban population in India is leading to a lot of problems, right? Like increasing slums, or decrease in standard of living in urban areas, and environmental damage. So urbanization also results in disparity in the market, owing to large demands of growing population in the primary sector struggling to cope. Yes, so primary sector is what? Agriculture, right? So agriculture is decreasing. Secondary and tertiary sectors are increasing, and that disparity is going in the market, which is why there are lesser prices in everything today, in every commodity. Okay, so it would be argued that urbanization impacts the migrants themselves on multiple levels. That is true, right? It can basically hamper the migrants' lives. Networks of friends and family become support systems here. And during the initial transformation phase and the struggle to find work in a fast-paced environment, the struggles may take months or even years, right, to adjust to the new surrounds in the city, or to find a stable job. So migrants are basically responsible for supporting both themselves in the city and the family left at the village or rural area. So that's all for today. I hope you have understood the concept. Basically, we have discussed more about urbanization concept in India, and it very much relates to migration and migrants, right? If there's no migration, then there is no urbanization. So it's a great factor we have started upon, and in the next part we'll see some of the socio-economic developments or impacts rather in urbanized areas. Okay, so that's all for now. Let's meet in the next video. Please go through the notes once again, read, and come back to me with questions. Thank you so much for listening.